So what's up people, and welcome to another episode of Comics, Animations, and Movies. So with the recent release of the second trailer for Alita Battle Angel, we get to see a little bit more with regards to what the movie is going to be like. Now, having been a major fan of the comic Gunnm, which is the Japanese title for Battle Angel Alita, which is the comic title for Alita Battle Angel, I've been looking forward to the release of this movie for a long time. And so when I started looking at the trailer, I thought that I would make a video with regards to my thoughts on how the movie is looking so far based on the trailer. Now, I'll try to keep this video as spoiler free as possible, so I'll only discuss the things that come out in the trailer, as well as maybe things that have been discussed in public disclosures, such as interviews with the director and such. And I'll try to keep this video as spoiler free as possible. Also, for people who may be interested in watching this review because they want to see my opinion with regards to Alita's eyes and whether I'm angry about how they show or represent Alita's eyes, then maybe you might want to turn off this video because I'll probably disappoint you. I don't really care either way about how they represent Alita's eyes. That's the least of my importance for this movie. I really care about how they show the story, the haunting, in-depth nature of the story, the character developments that come out in the story, the rich interactions that you see during the comic story, and how it will be represented in this live action movie. So yeah, if you're worried about the eyes, sorry, I have no comments with regards to that. Now, with respects to the story, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people know with regards to live action movie adaptations of comics or mangas and animes is the interpretation. There are two areas which I feel are key. One is the movie going to be faithful to the storyline of the comic? And two, does the movie actually bring out the main essence, the heart of what the anime or the comic was about? And though at first glance I did notice some deviations in the trailer to what you saw in the comic, overall, once I thought about it, I understood what the director was responsible for, which was to take a multi-chaptered comic and make it into a single live-action movie. I started understanding that, yeah, overall, this is so far looking pretty darn good. So first, with regards to the overall look and feel of the movie, according to the trailer, I think it looks pretty darn good. If I was to describe the story of Battle Angel Alita, I would use three words: hauntingly beautiful and sad. And so far, the movie's feeling seems to represent that. I mean, first of all, although this is a techno-rich thriller, it's not supposed to be a sterile sort of environment. And so far from what we can see, it doesn't kind of represent that. And one of the things I really like so far, seeing the trailer, is the attention to detail. You could see it, for example, in this scene shot here, where they actually have gone all the way to show the hydro wall that borders the actual city. This is something that you don't see until later on in the original comic, and you don't see at all in the anime itself, but they actually went out and put it into the movie. I'm really glad that they are focusing meticulously on the details of the movie that will be very representative of the comics. So yeah, I'm really glad about that. Now, as far as character representation, I've already mentioned in a previous video that I'm looking forward to this. I think they've chosen a good actress, Rosa Salazar, to represent Alita. And so far, she seems to be doing a really good job. And I really love the fact that Christoph Waltz is representing Dyson Ito, which of course is Daisuke Ito in the comic. And my gosh, Mahershala Ali as Vector, yeah, this is going to be some pretty good acting that's going to come up, I think, in this movie. And I think this is very important because unlike Ghost in the Shell, which a lot of people compare this movie to, that movie was very much about a political techno thriller. It was very important to get the plot right and make sure that it had that very political tone that Ghost in the Shell had, as well as the philosophical overtones. In this one, this is a much more character drama representation of a techno thriller. And for that, you really do want to make sure that the actors portray the character well and they do a good character interaction, because that's going to be crucial to the story or the success of this story. Now, for those of you who have read the comic, I think you may agree that from looking at the trailer, this movie is going to represent 3 of the arcs in the comic. So what I call the Rusty Angel arc, which is the first arc, the Hugo arc, and maybe part of the Motorball arc, not based upon the trailer, but based upon some of the information that they've done in the interviews. And one of the things I like about the trailer is so far I haven't seen much of Motorball. And so even if they put it in, I don't think it's going to be a major part of the story, which is good because Motorball should be a completely separate story by itself. And I've already talked about this in a previous video that if they're going to introduce this, so far from what I hear, it may be done right because it's going to be kind of like a prequel to what you expect Motorball to be. And if they do it right, it'll be a really good link going from what I call the Hugo arc to the Motorball arc, which the comic did not do too well. And this may actually be better in the movie if they do it right. Now, one of the main things I really enjoyed from this trailer is their introduction of the Berserker Body. And this, of course, is a very important part of the first few chapters of the comic. And of course, you know that it is the Berserker Body because not only does it look like the Berserker Body, but she actually shows her plasma jet capabilities in the actual trailer. So yeah, this is looking pretty darn good. Now, what's interesting is that she talks about a connection that she has to the Berserker Body, which, of course, in the comic is not really relevant. There really doesn't seem to be any particular connection between the Berserker Body or the faction that used the Berserker Body and, of course, her faction, which will be the Kunstlers, the Panzerkunst practitioners. And, of course, any Panzerkunst expert would not need anything from the Berserker Body. They themselves will be strong enough to decimate anything without requiring the weaponization that you see in the Berserker Body. However, whether she has a connection or not, and whether she gets the body due to her own discovery versus getting the body due to a necessity in the incident that occurs in the comic, which requires Daisuke Ito to give her the Berserker Body, it doesn't really matter from my perspective. I don't think it'll affect the plot at all. And so overall, I think this is fine, so long as they actually, bring out the Berserker Body in the way that it was represented in the comic. Because, we know that considering the fact that as good as Alita is in fighting in the first few chapters, she doesn't even know a minimal amount of the Panzerkunst that she had when she was an expert. And so she's going to need the Berserker Body's weaponization to be able to take on a lot of the adversaries that come out in the first few chapters. And the other deviation that I did notice in the trailer versus the comic is, of course, the portrayal of Vector. So according to the trailer, it looks like Vector's going to be the main antagonist, and from what it seems like, he's going to be going after Alita, basically for 2 possibilities. One, because she owns the Berserker Body, and second is because she may be a Panzerkunst practitioner. Of course, the knowledge of that lost ancient martial art may be of value to Vector. And this is, of course, completely different from the comic, where around this time Vector didn't even know who Alita was, and he really only meets Alita when she goes to beat his face in, for whatever reason that, of course, comic readers know what the reason is. And so, this is a deviation from the comic, and it might be disturbing, except when you hear about what you read in one of the interviews with Robert Rodriguez, where he mentioned that Vector is going to have multiple personality, and the other personality is kind of going to be forcefully embedded into Vector himself. And so he's going to have actually the personality of Destinova in this movie, which originally kind of bugged me for a while because it's like, wow, you're going to have Destinova come out in the first movie. But if it's only going to be as a personality within Vector, then I think that will be fine. And if Destinova is going to be within Vector, somewhat controlling Vector, then you could understand why Vector will be going after Alita. Because unlike Vector, who may not know anything about Alita, Destinova is definitely going to be curious about Alita. I mean, heck, Destinova eventually will be the main antagonist for Alita for a significantly long time in the comic. And so, yeah, this guy is, that will be very interesting. The guy is batshit crazy, and he's a complete genius, and I could see him going after Alita for that very reason. Okay, so I think that deviation can be okay if the reason for that is because of what Robert Rodriguez mentioned in that interview. And aside from that, there was a few other deviations, such as, Hugo appearing in the Kansas bar, during what it looks like the fight that occurs in the bar. And of course, in the comic, that doesn't happen. But that also makes sense because of the responsibility that Robert Rodriguez has, which is to create a movie that has multiple arcs mashed into one. In the comic, you could go from the Rusty Angel arc, where most of the bar fights occurred, and of course at that time Alita didn't even know who Hugo was, to the Hugo arc, where he first sees Hugo, and there are two completely different stories. Well, you can't do that in the movie, and so I got a feeling that he's going to have to mash the two together, and if he does, then it makes perfect sense that by the time that she's already being introduced to the world of bounty hunting, that she will already have met Hugo. And if that's the case, the bar fight scene, Hugo appearing in the bar fight scene makes sense. And again, I don't think it will particularly affect the major storyline. Yeah, there may be some initial unusual events because of the chronology that both arcs will be overlapping each other, but if it's done well, I think it'll be fine. The biggest thing for me is that they better do the Hugo arc right, because that is crucial to the very first chapters of the comic, and it's actually the very essence of the anime. And it's going to be basically the very essence of this movie as well. So if they screw that up, that's going to be a major problem. But overall, from what you see so far, I don't see any indication that they are destroying that storyline. So long as they get that part right, I think that will be important, because that is really, that's the arc where the story hits you in the feels so hard. And so, they better get that right. And so far, every indication seems to show that they're probably going to go and be faithful to that particular arc. Now, with regards to the music, I have to admit, the first trailer, I really like the music. As I mentioned, when I think of Battle Angel Alita, I think of three words: hauntingly beautiful and sad. And my gosh, when they played the Lullaby for the Soldiers song by Maggie Schiff in the first trailer, it fit beautifully with what I felt is the essence of this Battle Angel Alita storyline. The second music is actually not bad. It focuses more on the battle side of Battle Angel Alita, and it's a lot more lively, and it's necessary for the theme of the second trailer. But I'm hoping that they do continue to get that all overall hauntingly beautiful and sad overtones that I really value from the story. And so far, everything does look good with regards to that. Now, with regards to the action, yes, I am really going to be critical with regards to the action, because that's going to be crucial. Alita is the Panzerkunst practitioner that comes out in the movie, the ancient martial arts that's supposed to be the ultimate of all martial arts, the armored arts, the arts that's known by the cybernetic beings of this particular technoverse. And so, if they don't get that fighting style right, I am going to be seriously upset. Now, so far, it looks pretty good. And I really like the part of two things. I mean, the head bashing part looks pretty darn good. The foot sweeping kick that she does while she's looking forward looks pretty darn good. Overall, the overall perspective of the fight scenes looks really good so far. But they really haven't shown the major fight scenes yet, and they better get that part seriously right, because that's going to be crucial to the overall story. Okay, but with regards to the trailer, I think it looks pretty darn good. I'm worried about whether they will be faithful to the story, but so far from the trailers, it does look pretty good from my perspective. I don't know if you agree with that, but I'm still... when I see this, do I feel hopeful or do I feel upset looking at the trailers, knowing about what the story is? And so far, I'm very hopeful about this. But it'll be interesting to see how this movie fares. It's not really a mainstream storyline, so whether this movie story will be accepted by a lot of mainstream audience compared to something like Aquaman or Bumblebee, which is going to be released at the same time. And I have no idea why they're going to release it at this date. Whether it will be accepted compared to the other movies, I'm not sure. But it is a hauntingly beautiful storyline, and for anybody who's interested, I think this will be a very good movie if they are faithful to the story. Now, if you're interested in the story but don't want to be spoiled by what you may expect from the plot of the story, there are 3 chapters in the Battle Angel comic verse. They're titled Sweet Night Part 1, 2, and 3, and they are considered Chapter 0 of the comic series. They're prequels to the actual Battle Angel Alita story. And in fact, in these chapters, Alita doesn't even come out. This is centered around the story of Daisuke Ito in the comic, and how he comes about to become a cyber surgeon. The reason I talk about this is, although the plot has nothing to do, or not really anything to do with the actual plot that you will see in the movie or in the later chapters of the comic, it does give the very good, hauntingly sad theme that you will see throughout the rest of the story, including what I expect to be in the movie. So if you kind of take a look at that and read that, and if you like that sort of storyline, then you probably will like the remaining stories in the Battle Angel Alita comic verse, and of course what you would expect to see in the movie. So if you don't want to be spoiled but do want to get a feel of what sort of story Battle Angel Alita is about, then you might want to take a look at those first 3 chapters just to get a feel of what the story is like. Anyway, that's about it for my feelings with regards to this particular trailer and the overall feeling that I get watching these trailers and knowing the story of the comic. Thank you very much for watching the video. And if you have any comments and if you have your opinions with regards to these trailers, I would like to hear them. And if you can please post them in the comment section below, I would appreciate it. Anyway, I'll keep on looking with regards to any updates with regards to the Battle Angel Alita or the Alita Battle Angel movie. And if there is any other significant trailers or updates, then I may post additional future videos, and I hope you join me at that time. In any case, thank you very much. I'll bring out more comics, animes, and movie videos in the future. And until then, happy comic book reading, happy anime watching, happy movie watching, and of course, Jaya, nice day, everyone.